Hi, in this video, we are going to take a look at how we can interact with our smart contracts using Thirdweb. So as you can see, they have provided most of the code for us. The only thing we need to do is actually copy and paste the lines from here to our application, then do the setup to make it look a little bit better. We are going to be using this useContract hook a lot. So it's going to return a contract or is loading. And while the contract is loading, we can just show a status bar or like a waiting signal. And after when we got the actual contract, the first thing we are going to do is we are going to get the contract metadata. So this is the task for this video actually. But after this video, like in the rest of the applications, we will cancel a direct listing, which is canceling the selling of the NFT. And as you can see, this useContract hook will be called wherever we are interacting with a contract. And same for creating a new listing. So in case we want to sell our NFTs, we will also need to use this useContract hook. Then with this hook, we are going to call another hook actually that is provided by Thirdweb to us. So I don't want to actually repeat this useContract hook a lot. So what I want to do, and I don't want to hard copy this contract address in here. So what I want to do is actually, I have get contract addresses in here. This is like a wrapper around the environment variables we have. And since this is a TypeScript document, even if the environment variable is not found, it's going to return an empty string so that the strongly typing is not going to be disrupted. And from here, let's actually implement another helper method that will give us the contract itself. We wouldn't need to created from scratch for in every page. Let's start with the marketplace. So let's call this get marketplace contract. And it's not going to take anything. It's going to take market address from get marketplace address. And with the address, I want it to call the contract and is loading from useContract. So this useContract is from Thirdweb. Okay, it's here now. This useContract also requires the address, as we have seen from the example. So we have the market address ready to go. And we should also define the version of the marketplace we are using. Since the marketplace has a lot of versions inside Thirdweb, we need to specify the version as well. We are not going to do this for the NFT, just for the marketplace we are doing this. And let's rename them so that it's going to be better to see. And let's call this marketplace loading. And we should just return these values. So since this is a helper, it's not going to do anything else. It's just gonna save us some copy and pasting. That's it. And let's do the same for NFT as well. Let's call this like NFT contract. And NFT address will also be similarly returned from this get NFT address. And inside we are going to say contract and is loading again. And let's rename them to NFT contract and NFT loading. Then we can just return these values. Okay, so having this, we are actually ready to make our first smart contract interaction. So for that, I will go into the info page. And inside this info page, I want users to be able to show the metadata of the contract. So this contract metadata will include like who created it, when it is created. And for the marketplace, it's going to include like name, description, and symbol. Pretty generic information about the smart contracts that we have. So let's call this info page. It's not going to take anything. So to begin with, let's take actually the marketplace from get marketplace contract. And let's actually do the same for NFT as well, because I want both of them to be visible in this page. Get NFT contract. And now actually we are ready to use the actual metadata hook provided by Thirdweb. So we are going to have a data and is loading. And this is like a typical return type of the contracts of the hooks. Use contract metadata. Yeah, that's the one. And inside, it's going to ask for a contract itself. So as you remember, we are using the useContract hook to create an actual instance of the contract. And on this contract, we are using that instance of the contract. We are actually calling this method. Let's start with the marketplace. And since we are doing that, let's call this marketplace metadata. And is loading should be marketplace loading. Or maybe like markets metadata loading. And let's actually copy and paste this. So the other one should be NFT metadata and NFT market metadata loading. The only difference is it's going to take NFT contract instead of the marketplace, obviously. And now actually we are ready to show the users what we have inside this metadata. And for that, I will use my existing UI components and I will not go much details about them since we will be more focusing on the smart contract interactions. So let's call this contract details. And without worrying about the styling for now, let's actually call this market metadata loading and NFT metadata loading. So in case we have the loading indicators, can check by this OR statement. Let's actually print out like a p tag or like a div containing of a text saying that loading contract info. Very nice thing about this Thirdweb is that they are all hooks. So this one is a hook and this one is a hook. That means that this is loading is going to be updated in real time. So we don't need to be worrying about when the is loading is up to date or not. It's going to be listening to the changes in the function itself. So having this will ensure that we are going to see loading bar when the actual function is loading. And we don't need to know when it's going to end. We just need to check if the data fields in here exist. So for that, we can use just like a simple AND with 2 ampersands to ensure that the value we are looking for exists. And if it does, I have a actually contract metadata UI component, which is going to render all the necessary info about it. And it requires some values. So maybe it's going to, yeah, it offered those, but it wasn't that accurate. So let's delete them. So the first thing is actually have a type called metadata, and we are going to cover that in the later sections. And that metadata will get the metadata directly. And we need to type as metadata and import this. And also we need a title. So let's call this NFT contracts, NFT marketplace. And after this, we actually need to do the same to NFT collection itself. And for that, it's going to be really similar. That's why I will just copy and paste to save some time. And if the NFT metadata also exists, we can just render it on the screen. And for that, again, we are going to take the NFT metadata as metadata, and we're just gonna provide a title to it. Let's call this NFT collection metadata. And yeah, actually, this is it. So we don't need to be worrying about the is loadings, as I said before. And while the metadata contract values are fetching, we will just be seeing this one. And after it's done, this part is going to disappear, obviously, since one of them or both of them will be false. And this is not going to be rendered. We are just going to be left out with these ones. In case we have a data, we are going to see it. And if we have an error, we are not going to see it. And with the export default, we will be done with this info page. So this is it for this video. And in the next one, we will go into deeper details about the NFT collection contract interaction.